cellsaviors.org, and of course, diamine.com. Work hard, play rough, Diamine. And I'm joined as always by my co host, the brilliant, the Choven one, the Oracle of Odds, Josh Choven. How are you doing, my friend?
Good. Still cruising off that Sean Strickland win. God bless America, greatest country in the world, and all the stuff that Sean Strickland says. Besides that, just an incredible display. The guy, he's a machine. I swear when he's out there, it's like he just goes into autopilot, and he just spars so much like that. I thought it was a vintage Sean Strickland performance, man.
So let's talk about a little bit about Strickland. Let's talk a little bit about last week. You know, I had him picked to win by decision. I missed that. Obviously, he went out and scored the KO. Did you expect him to do that?
No, I didn't. Thank goodness that I made my money for the night on that Sergey Spivak fight. That was a little bit dicey too. D'Elia rocked him in the second, but Spivak survived and clearly won 2 out of the 3 rounds. So that was my big bet of the night. I did have some money on that fight to go to decision, which was looking good. It was really kind of a glorified sparring match until Strickland just tagged him once to the body, and Fluffy seems to maybe have some body issues. That's how Kevin Holland finished in 2. So, yeah, I mean, that was happy for Strickland. Good for him. That gets him right back in the title conversation. But, yeah, I said last week that my goal was to just not lose money because it was a lot of close fights, lots of underdogs that we liked. Mission successful, made a profit. That was a rough card, buddy. It was a hard card to handicap. So good for us for making money on it, getting most of it right.
Yeah, and sure. And look, I mean, we had some picks on the underdogs, as Strickland was the underdog, but others as well, based on the ability to make money if people so chose to go that route, right? We always try to preface our picks in those cases with, hey, this is why the odds are saying the other guy's going to win, but if you want to make a little more money and take the chance, that's why you do this, right?
Yeah, and I think that's something that we can hit on more, especially for new listeners and stuff, is looking at these odds the way that they are, the way that they exist. Minus 500, for instance, means that you would have to bet 500 to profit $100. That doesn't mean you have to bet 500, but you kind of, if you bet 50, you'll get 55 back as long as that bet wins. When you get into plus money, it's the inverse of that. So like a plus 250 would be if you bet 100, you get 350 back. So those odds exist for a reason. Those odds move around for a reason. But I know that last week, for instance, Sergey Spivak was sitting at like plus 120. I was more confident in him to win than some of these minus 400, minus 500 favorites. So, yeah, it's taking it on a fight-by-fight, case-by-case basis. But anytime that you're fairly confident in a plus money pick, if that hits, you're gonna be looking pretty.
Yeah, and I hate to rewind some of this, but you called Strickland's opponent. You called him Fluffy, and I know it's his nickname. But here's the thing: is he called Fluffy because he doesn't do enough sit-ups, doesn't do enough road work, or because he gets drops with body shots, drinks too much tequila and his liver's soft?
Is this conspiracy farm? Did I log on to the wrong podcast? No, you're exactly right, Pat. And that's what there's some whispers of that. Now, Anthony Hernandez is a tough SOB. There's no doubt he could kick my ass. He kicked Elidze's ass. He kicked Michel Pereira's ass. But there's some talking
holes in the game
now that he got the Fluffy nickname because he's not as ripped as these other guys. He's got a little bit of a belly on him. So I actually, when I was thinking about the podcast earlier today, this is a question I wanted to ask you. How does muscle mass affect those body shots as opposed to like an Alex Pereira? Everyone talks about how he's pure muscle. It's like he's built out of mahogany wood or something. how does I mean, I guess it would make sense that if you're all muscled up, it would repel those liver shots more. Can you get into that a little bit?
Well, I think it comes down to conditioning. It comes down to understanding how to absorb body shots, how to roll with them, how to defend against them. Yeah, there's a lot that goes into that. I mean, as well as certainly a massive amount of conditioning. I mean, Thai fighters in their training deliberately, not full force all the time, but they will bounce shin bones off each other's livers and solar plexus and ribs to toughen their striking surfaces as well as the surfaces being stricken, right? So my elbows are striking surfaces in Muay Thai. If you look at a Thai fighter's elbow, they've got calcium deposits on them, on top of their bone, so they create spurs. Their knees are conditioned, their shins are conditioned, knuckles get conditioned. All these things your body has to be conditioned to absorb that punishment. So it just goes without saying what you've got to do to go through the process of getting to the point of being able to absorb massive amounts of punishment. And that, of course, goes with conditioning. But so anyway, enough about that. I want to get to some news. We've only got really one thing to cover when it comes to news, and that is the big announcement again about the UFC show at the White House, looking to spend TKO's looking to spend, they say, $60 million to offset some of the costs by about 50%, $30 million in corporate, contributions. Here's the thing. They're expecting 5,000 spectators at the White House for the Bread and Circuses show. And the bread and circuses, remember, that's for the peasants. Keep them occupied.
Keep them occupied and not complaining and not rebelling. Yes.
Right. So anyway, on top of that, the Secret Service nightmare that this creates, I can't even imagine, knowing that I've worked with people of different areas of, aspects of details of protection and things like that. It's a nightmare. But anyway, what are your thoughts on the UFC White House show?
Yeah, well, you brought up something I didn't even think about with the Secret Service. It's like the new normal. All these crazy things going around us, and we've just become adjusted to them. I swear it's every week. Oh, someone tried to kill Trump again. He's dead. They shot him. Moving on. Like, it happens every week. Like, it just happened a few days ago. Like, it is it's something, some crazy shit's going to happen.
It does create a bit of a problem, and I'm guessing, I'm just going to do the math, about half of the 5,000 are going to be Secret Service and law enforcement dressed as UFC fans to keep everyone contained and under control, probably, and under surveillance. That would be my guess anyway.
Yeah, let me kind of get your read on this, Pat, because we haven't really talked about the White House card that much. And I think the reason, for me at least, is, now let's get into the Trump is he's almost a face of the UFC. He comes out to several big UFC pay-per-view events. Half the crowd gets up and cheers lustily. Half the crowd boos and gives him the middle finger. He's a polarizing guy. We all know that. A lot of people are very bothered by Trump being so involved with the UFC. It doesn't bother me, and I think it's better to have the leader of the free world on your side than not on your side. That doesn't bother me as much. And Dana White and Trump have been involved forever. That's fine. I'm not triggered by that. I don't get the White House card, Pat, and maybe you can. Maybe it excites you more than it excites me. It doesn't make sense to me. I think fighting outdoors is weird. I don't know that I've ever bet a MMA event that's been outdoors. We're going to turn the White House lawn into put a cage in there. It's maybe I'll see it and I'll be like, oh, this is awesome. As you know, I'm more concerned about the fights. Let's put a bunch of super fights on there. I think Strickland versus Chimaev, you got the whole U.S.-Russia thing. That's awesome. That'll sell. Make that the pay-per-view. Put some other super fights on there. But the whole, I guess I don't see the vision yet for the UFC White House card. But what do you think?
I think, look, it's going to create controversy. People will find any reason to be political. I don't care one way or the other. It's not going to make me tune in any more than I would any other way. And, I've been to enough UFCs in my life and competed in enough that if I miss one, I'm not really that concerned. Obviously, for the reasons we're doing this show, I like to keep track of our accuracy, how well we do, things like that. That's my main reason. And to be honest with you, our listeners who are going to evaluate what we have to say about the fights and the breakdowns of them is really the meat and potatoes of why people are going to watch, because they're invested in it financially, and that's the biggest reason. It's, whether you're a fan of this guy or that guy or the Trump, or this or Strickland, or I don't care about any of that. I don't care about politics. I just enjoy analyzing fights and breaking them down. Period. That's it.
One last question, then we can move on to the fights that you're talking about. Can you talk about fighting outdoors? I've seen these legendary pictures of you fighting at John O'Donnell Stadium. Some beautiful pics from that. You obviously fought Michael Nunn at the fairgrounds. I would think fighting outside in the middle of July, it's got to be hot. It's got to be humid. There's no air conditioning. Obviously, what if it rains? Talk about, because you have an insight fighting outdoors that I think not a lot of fighters have.
Well, you run into a lot of problems. I can tell you this, that I fought in 97, 98 degree heat in the beating sun in Clinton, Iowa, and fighters were actually complaining that the tarp was so brutally hot that it was burning their skin when they were on the bottom. The guy that I was fighting, I think it was Al Buck Jr. at the time, I made sure that I was never on the bottom in that fight. I finished him fairly quick and got out of there, but I fought in rainstorms before, fought in a lot of different inclement weather outdoors, and so yeah, it's not optimal, but look, your opponent's dealing with the same shit. So, you just put it out of your mind and you negotiate the situation the best you can and as wisely as you can. It's a fight, just like if you had, I didn't win the fight because I had the sun was in my eyes. I didn't see that punch coming, which was an actual concern in one of my fights, where if my back was to the sun, he couldn't see my punches as easily, right? So you gotta add that stuff in to your strategy. But anyway, let's move on to the fights coming up this Saturday. UFC Mexico.
City.
And some of the odds on these fights, I mean, there's some fairly big gaps in quite a few of these, aren't there?
This is a weird card, Pat Militech. There's all kinds of weird things going on this card. We're gonna get to her in a few fights. I know it starts with a guy's fight, but there's a chick fight happening about 4 fights in, where the girl fighting went in for a WWE tryout. Because the same people that own the UFC own WWE. And they gave her a UFC contract instead. They said, "Can you fight in Mexico City in a few days?" And she said yes. So it's a Latino heavy card. There's nothing wrong with that. There's some amazing Latino fighters. Brandon Moreno headlines. But I was looking at this card, just scratching my head on some of these matchups. But we're gonna break them down, buddy. We're gonna do the best we can. But had a difficult card to handicap last week, and I think an even more difficult card to handicap this week. But guess what? You came to the best. We're going to do our best. We're going to knock this out of the park, but it's not going to be easy, man.
Yeah, so am I correct in starting with Wes Schultz versus Damian Penis?
Correct. Is it penis? I was saying panas, but we'll find out. Yeah, you are. That's the first.
I deliberately Americanized that for the comedy portion. Okay.
You got me.
You got to hang with me, bro.
It's a roller coaster.
So, the odds on this one, plus 215, minus 290 for Damian Penis. What are your thoughts on the fight?
Panas, I think, is the rightful favorite.
Pinas.
Minus, we're starting off hot. A little bit of a minus 225. He's out to minus 270. He's far from a lock. Schultz seems pretty decent fighter, and I don't think that Penis, whatever his name is that great anyway. But this is just kind of going to be the whole card. The favorite should win. Not liking a ton of underdogs like I was last week, but Yeah, we're gonna. Yeah, I'm interested to hear your perspective because my perspective is should probably win, far from a lock. That's my thought on Panas.
I think Panas has the edge standing up, and if it goes to the ground, I think Schultz has the edge. That's the way I look at it. Is Schultz's takedowns good enough to get Panas off his feet? I think they are. So leaning towards the underdog a little bit potentially in this one doesn't mean I'm betting on it, certainly, and I'm not strongly encouraging anyone to gamble, on this fight in general. So both guys are 4-1 their last 5 fights. So some similarities, but the strengths lie in Damian's got the striking advantage, and Schultz has the grappling advantage, in my humble opinion. So moving on, go on to Silva versus Marshall. This fight between the number 64, dude, this is something I wanted to bring up. The ranking system goes down into, there's so many guys ranked in the system now that it's pretty incredible how deep the rankings go, and the athletes and the pool of athletes that the UFC has to draw from is pretty vast, to say the least. And they're tapping into athletes way earlier in their career than they used to. All those things. So, but Silva's 0-2 in the UFC, and Marshall is 2-3 in the UFC. What are your thoughts?
Well, Marshall should be 3-2. This fight took place, I believe, about a year ago. Francis Fire Marshall, as his friends call him, got absolutely robbed. Dom was the underdog, was a decent underdog, like plus 200. Dominated all 3 rounds of the fight and somehow lost a split decision. Judging has been better. I think it's progressively getting better. We had another bad one last week. I know that you and I were split on the Michel Pereira. Who did Michel Pereira? The white guy from Houston. Anyway, the guy that Michel Pereira fought that I'm drawing a blank on right now, I thought he clearly won 2 out of 3 rounds. Split decision to Pereira. So I don't know. The Marshall one was bad though. So Marshall should be more like 3-2. He's minus 800, so he's a pretty big price tag. But this is probably as close to a lock as I have on this card. He opened up at minus 550. He's now out to minus 800. I think if he would have rightfully won that fight, they wouldn't even be giving him Eric Silva. I think this is kind of the pink slip fight for Eric Silva, unless you do something miraculous. You're out of the UFC and back to wherever backwater promotion you were fighting at before. So yeah, it's a hefty price tag. It's minus 800. Looks like you can get minus 700 on FanDuel. Always look around for the best odds if you really want to bet a fight. But yeah, Marshall rolls here. I think that Marshall is an above average UFC fighter. Eric Silva, as his record shows, probably doesn't belong in the UFC.
So that's one of, if you were to combine some fights together in a pool, that would be one, right?
The parlay piece, exactly.
All right, so moving on, and yeah, that one's as much a lock as you would think.
It's a 5-star lock. It's pricey. It's pricey. It's not. I think one of my favorite fights last week was Spivak, and he's plus 120. So but if you want to bet on a fight and know you're not going to lose money, it would be Francis Marshall for me this week. And like you said, I liked how you pointed out, if you're putting together a parlay, 3-4 leg parlay, Marshall should absolutely be in there, because that's about as close to free money as I think we can get this week.
Okay, beautiful. So moving on to Ernesta Caracate. Is that the correct pronunciation of her name?
It is, and then her opponent.
Stab in the dark, bro. Stab in the dark. Caracate.
Yeah, her opponent's the one I really want to talk about, because this is the girl who went in for a WWE tryout, and all of a sudden she's fighting in Mexico City a week later. So
she's unbeaten. She's got some knockouts. She's got some subs. Pretty skilled girl. Most finishes. One fight that's gone to decision. So she's talented, but she's going up against a girl in Caracate that has boxing and kickboxing experience as a professional, right? So, this one's not super easy to pick either.
Yeah, and you can see that by the line movement. Kara Kate opened up at minus 215. She's down to minus 185. That's not a massive move by any means. If Kara Kate was to dip down, I don't know, maybe below minus 150, then I'd start looking at that heavier. So my pick's going to be Kara Kate here, but yeah, I mean, this Regina Tarine obviously I seem a little bit more fascinated by it than you do, that she goes in for a WWE tryout and then suddenly she's in the UFC. But I mean, if she can win, that's going to be a big story. That's going to go viral. Everyone's going to get behind, and these female fights are usually close, and so yeah, I don't really have a hard lean either way. You know what? Give me the underdog here. Give me the underdog. Give me Terrain at plus 160. Not a heavy bet, but
There's potential.
moving. There's potential for an upset here. Absolutely.
Okay. Yeah, and I lean towards Carricade as well, given her background. I analyze the fights. I make my pick, then I look at the final odds and where things have moved and kind of give a double check.
Yeah, I like that.
In that area. So Carricade checks both boxes. So that's where I lean anyway. So moving on to Silva de Andrade versus Reyes, and fight between an unranked Reyes and a number 40 ranked Silva de Andrade. What's your thoughts, brother?
Do you have ages on both those guys? I'm going to guess that Silva de Andrade is much older than Javier Reyes.
Is much older?
Yeah, because Silva de Andrade's been around forever.
Yeah, he's 29 and 6, but at the same time, Reyes does have 27 professional fights.
Okay.
So he has been around for a while as well. When you look at the knockout ratio, Reyes has 10 KOs. Silva de Andrade has 20. Both guys have been knocked out before, but one time for de Andrade and twice for Reyes. When we look at the submission aspect, Reyes does show, at least numerically, to be better on the ground, and I think he is. But at the same time, Reyes' competition, the opponents that he's faced up till now, I literally wrote in that box, after observing, I literally wrote the word shit.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So, the competition has not been there. And when things get thick, when things get difficult, many times, as we've said, the quality of competition and getting there, which Silva de Andrade has been pretty solid competition, that could be the deciding factor. What's your thoughts, though, between these two?
Yeah, I didn't see a whole lot from Javier Reyes to impress me. Looks like it's taken him a long time to get into the UFC, somewhat more of a journeyman. Douglas Silva de Andrade has been around forever. He's a veteran of the sport. He's a veteran of this weight division, and the line movement is doing nothing. People are scared to bet this fight, Pat. It opened up at minus 230 on Caesars. It's still minus 230. Opened up at minus 240 on Bet River. It's still minus 240. So, I mean, I guess I'm going to lean with the favorite in Reyes, but nothing would shock me here in this fight.
Okay. Yeah, and I mean, again, people aren't jumping to bet. I was sitting there thinking to myself, well, Silva de Andrade's got, 13 fights in the UFC, got the experience, gone up against tougher opponents. There's potential for the upset, certainly there. It's there. So,
a bet that I like a little bit here is I do like fight goes to decision. Douglas Silva de Andrade in particular has, and this happens when you get older as a fighter, two things. He's not quite as athletic and dangerous as he used to be. And then going back on the other side, he's more technical, a little more conservative. So that is a recipe for success if you're looking to bet fight goes to decision. When the aging veteran is not as dangerous as he used to be, and coming back to the other side, doesn't overextend himself maybe as much as he used to. So it's harder for him to get the finish. It's harder for him to be finished. Instead of betting a winner in this fight, I'd probably just rather bet the fight goes all 3 rounds.
Okay. And that, I find that interesting. I don't want to beat a dead horse here, but I find it interesting considering between the two, they've got 30 KOs. So, that is always there as well. But so moving on,
So
Quinones versus
hold on, real quick. I want to get. So what would you get without looking? What would you guess fight goes to decision is odds wise?
dear God. I I mean, if I'm looking at the knockout ratio, which is, I mean, above 50% in their fights, what is the goes to decision? What is the
It's
number?
it's essentially 50-50 either way. You got to put a little bit of juice in there, but it's essentially double your money either way. Double your money fight
What's the
goes.
fight ends by KO?
Fight ends specifically
KO TKO.
by, yeah, I'm not, I'd have to dig a little bit for that, but just fight goes the distance is minus 102. Fight doesn't go is plus 110.
Interesting. Okay. All right. So let's move on to Quinones Mutino. Mutino ranked 76th in the world against. I didn't notice that Quinones was ranked at all. He's 1-2 in the UFC. Mutino is he 0-3 in the
Yeah,
UFC?
I don't know why we keep bringing Chris Mutino back into the UFC.
Well,
I
the
don't.
kid got, he got brought in last minute, I believe it
Fight
was,
O'Malley.
to fight Sean O'Malley. He got the living hell beat out of him, and his manager should have been fired. Like, if Mutino was my kid, or I was coaching him, and the manager said he's got a chance to fight, Sean O'Malley in the UFC, I'd go, "You're high. You're going to kill this kid.
They
You're
almost
going
did.
to ruin, and you're going to
They
ruin his
almost did
career,
kill
and
him.
you're going to get him hurt." And which, I think in many ways happened. Mutino's he's a nice kid. I've called his fights before he got to the UFC, and he was a talented kid. The Quinones is heavily favored in this, but is this a lock to you in terms of Quinones?
It's not a lock back.
Okay,
And I'll tell you why. I think that this line, these odds, reflect more of a Chris Mutino fade than they do Christian Quinones being some world beater, great fighter. I think that all people know Chris Moutinho for losing, and
sure,
I'm not
yeah,
sure why he's gotten another shot at the UFC. Good for him, but the odds have dipped a little bit for Quinones. We're talking about a guy who opened up at minus 650 on FanDuel, has been bet down to minus 620, which is only like, I don't know, like 6 or 7% dip. But it's still interesting to me. You think Quinones would be getting steamrolled in the other direction since everyone wants to fade Chris Moutinho here. So, man, I don't know. But then you look, but this is interesting to me, Pat. You look at another sports book, Bet Rivers, which is a big time sports book. Quinones opens up at minus 500. He gets steamed up to minus 670. So, yeah, I would say that Quinones, I'm not as confident throwing him in the parlay as I am Marshall, but with those huge odds, he probably would be a parlay piece. If we parlayed Quinones and Francis Fire Marshall, we'd be looking at, I don't know, maybe minus 250 or something like that on the parlay slip. You get another big favorite in there, and you're looking at about double your money. So, yeah, you talked me into Quinones a little bit. I mean, Moutinho's still young. He does seem to lose horrifically in the UFC and then go to these smaller promotions like LFA and else and look pretty good. So I don't know. He did get a raw deal against Sean O'Malley right out of the gate, and that's kind of haunted him his whole career. And I think you hit on something really big. What if his manager wouldn't have made that decision? Would we be looking at a different Chris Moutinho? Probably. But yeah, Quinones is obviously the pick here, just not crazy confident in it. Maybe, I don't know, 3 out of 5 stars confident.
makes sense. And I don't know. I kind of see Chris Mutino, not to beat a dead horse, but having to fight Sean O'Malley for his introduction into the UFC would be like my manager calling me after one professional boxing match and going, "I got you your shot against Roy Jones."
Yeah, yeah. Yeah.
It's
You'd be
and without the
stupid not
payday.
to take it. Yeah, you'd be stupid not to. You want to be a world champion, right? Well, I want
Well,
to be a world
I'd be
champion in
stupider.
like 5 years.
I'd be stupider after taking it because the brain damage. But, but but ultimately, but here's why I lean toward Quinones. Moutinho likes to strike. He's roughly 500 KOs as opposed to getting KO'd, and Quinones is 10-2 in that area. His quality of opponents have been okay, so that's what makes me lean towards Quinones a little bit more. So, all right, moving on to Macy Chiasson against Perez, number 13 versus number 8 in the world. Interesting matchup here. Both girls have some experience in the UFC, of course, and have been around for a while. 10-5 versus 12-2. What's your thoughts, brother?
This is there's a good chance that a circus breaks out during this fight. You've got Eileen Perez, who pretty good on the ground, pretty decent all-around fighter. She loves shaking her booty in the faces of her opponents after she beats them. That's literally what she's known for, is shaking her booty.
Hey, Spencer Fisher used to do the Elvis dance afterwards. So
what would Fisher do?
Oh, he loved Elvis Presley, so he'd do Elvis Presley dances after people got KO'd, after he KO'd them.
I love looking back fondly on the past. I'd say out of all of the fighters out of your stable, I've never heard one bad word about Spencer Fisher. It seemed like everyone loved the guy.
Yeah, no, an incredible fighter, and always went to war. So, well, I mean, these girls on paper, when you look at them, besides experience levels, they're fairly similar. I mean, for Perez, the competition more recently has gotten tougher, but early on it was literally a cakewalk, and much more experience for Macy. She was going up against opponents a lot of times that had a lot more fights than her and had decent records comparatively to hers. So
yeah. So what happened with Macy is Macy was discovered on The Ultimate Fighter.
Right.
She won The Ultimate Fighter, and they pretty much put her in the express lane for a title shot. When Macy looks good, she looks very good. She's taller than most girls in this division. She's longer than most girls in this division. And she's more violent than most female fighters in general. When she's confident, when she starts swinging those jabs and those, they call them elbows from hell, she's very good. The issue is frankly, cage IQ. She'll be dominating on the feet and then try to take it to the ground. And it's like, what are you doing, Macy? And so that's the issue that's plagued Macy Chiasson her entire life, has been the decisions that she makes in the cage. She has the body, she has the athletic framework to be a champion, to win really every fight, and that just she hasn't washed out of the UFC, but she hasn't come anywhere close to champion status either. So I think that's what we're seeing here. Is I think that Eileen Perez has a more definitive path to victory. You never know what you're going to get out of Macy. You really never know. She can look amazing. She can look terrible. She can look amazing and terrible in the same exact fight. Eileen Perez, she wants to drag you to the ground. She wants to out-muscle you. She wants to submit you, and she wants to shake her booty in your face after she wins. And I think that I just see a much more clear-cut path to victory for Eileen Perez here, and I think that's why her odds have gone up a little bit, opening at -160. She's -185 now. That shows a little bit of investment from sharp bettors in her, not a ton, but yeah, I would be on the Eileen Perez train here.
I agree with you in terms of the potential for the submission or dominance on the ground, and even though she's had a little easier road. So number 13 potentially to upset the number 8 girl in the world. And now moving on to Jose Medina against Ryan Gandra. Gandra is 2-0 in the LFA. This is his UFC debut, while Medina is 0-3 in the UFC and going to get his walking papers if he gets beat by a guy coming in from the LFA. Correct. Most likely, right?
Correct. So this would be another one of a guy who's a big favorite, so big that it makes me a little bit nervous. Now, Gandra opened up at -530 on FanDuel. He's -700 now. So that shows a pretty substantial line move. -550 is where he opened on opened on Caesar Sportsbook. He's minus 650 now. So I like Gandra here. Jose Medina is obviously beatable. We've seen that. I think they're giving him almost to Gandra. Okay, Jose Medina didn't work out as the next, hot prospect. Maybe you can step on top of him here, Gandra, and get people recognizing your name. You put a beat down on him. So we sacrifice one kid to elevate another kid. I just don't know that I've seen enough out of Gandra to substantiate him being a minus 700 favorite. I think this is more of a fade on Jose Medina. He's obviously my pick here, but maybe 4 out of 5 stars confidence. Not quite as much as I like Marshall. Would I be okay with you throwing him in there? A Quinones, Gandra, Marshall parlay? Yeah, that's fine. It's not a lock, but yeah, all three should certainly win.
I agree. Most sense. Coming from the expert, the Chauvin one there. I like where you're headed with that.
Thank you.
Move on to Santiago Luna versus Angel Pacheco. Pacheco 0-1 in the UFC, and at the same time, Luna is 1-0. Both guys are undefeated in terms of KOs. They've never been KO'd. Neither guy's ever been finished. So, give me your thoughts on this.
Yeah, this seems to be a theme here, Pat. Favorites who are getting to be bigger favorites than I maybe think that they should be. But I think that when they were putting this card together, they wanted a lot of Latino on Latino violence, and they just put together the fights that they could, even if they looked like big mismatches. So this is the fourth fight, at least I believe, so far out of the fights that we have covered, which is a massive favorite against a massive underdog. So Does it play out that way? Santiago Logo minus 480 is where he started on FanDuel. Minus 590 is where he is now. Minus 450 is where he started on Caesars. He was minus 600 when I checked 2 minutes ago. Now he's minus 700, Pat. So someone just put a big bet down on Luna to move him from minus 600 to minus 700 just in the past 5 minutes. So, yeah, I like Luna. I think, again, it's more of a fade on Pacheco. Luna looks to be really better than Pacheco in pretty much every area here. Is that how you're seeing it too?
Agreed. And I mean, at the same time, neither one has had super, super tough competition on their way to this point in time. So, yeah, I don't know. I think this fight does not go the distance. I will say that. Even though neither one has been finished, I think that both like to finish people, and they're going to be going for it. And I think there's going to be some fireworks between the two, because you've got a guy that knows, he's got to get something done, and another guy that's getting his name made off somebody else. And here we go.
Yeah, the odds would agree with you there, Pat. Fight doesn't go to decision is about minus 430. Which is right. Pretty high for neither guy's been finished, but they're both young. Neither have had a ton of fights. So,
well, you know how they say it's like when both guys defensively are the Washington Generals, and both guys are potentially the Harlem Globetrotters offensively. Somebody's going to sleep. Somebody's going to sleep.
Yeah.
So, yeah. So, all right. Rodriguez versus Borges. Kevin Borges against Imanol Rodriguez. We'll move on to that one. And there's some heavy favorite going on with that as well. 5. Right?
Yeah, this is number 5 of the big favorites. So let's break this down, and then I have a prediction of my own here. So Rodriguez, once again, he opens up at minus 400 on Caesars. He's minus 450 now. Opens up at minus 430 on FanDuel. He's minus 470 now. So this is really the same kind of train I've been riding, Bible I've been thumping on these last few fights. Rodriguez should win. Really, everything mathematically says he should win. He's clearly the better fighter, but this is kind of what I run into, what I'm used to betting PFL. Bellator, where there's a ton of huge favorites, and that was pretty much almost every Bellator card. RIP Bellator. I used to love betting it. It would be on like Friday afternoons and stuff in Dublin or London, and I used to love betting those Bellator cards. I couldn't bet as much as I would UFC because without fail, almost every card one of these big favorites would lose and just wreck your parlay, because that's how parlays work. You win the first five, if you lose the last one, whoosh, there goes all your money. It's like you might as well have lost all six. You don't get a dime back. So that's really what this card reminds me of, is we have a lot of huge favorites, not necessarily huge favorites because they're amazing future champions, just because they seem to be so much better than the guy that they're fighting. And a lot of these guys don't have a ton of fights, so are they really as good as they think we are, or as bad as we think they are? So that is really, I don't mean to, you can certainly go into more detail here. I don't mean to sound like a broken record, but this is fight number 5, where we have a big favorite, maybe a little bit too big. And my bold prediction is, out of these 5, and we might even have another big favorite coming up, but I think that one of these big favorites loses. And so I'd be people are going to do it. Our listeners are probably going to do it. I might do it, but I think that.
So in this particular fight then, who would you?
Well, I mean, you have to pick Rodriguez, but
yeah.
I think that one of these huge favorites loses and messes up a lot of parlays. That's what I'm trying to say.
And Rodriguez has had technically garbage competition on his way here. I'm not disrespecting the people that he's fought, but look, we've all got standards. My standards as an athlete and as a coach and broadcaster and things like that. The road to getting to this point was literally a golden walkway. And it is what it is. But so Borges could really rain on his parade, even though he's 1-3 in the UFC and all that good stuff. He's had a little tougher competition, so that's about all I'm going to say about that. So Rodriguez, odds tell us that's where, but Kevin could absolutely upset that train. If he comes out on target. So, all right, moving on to Shiraz and Felipe Bunez.
It's Burns.
It's not Burns. Is it Burnes?
I think that's a. Okay, well, I may have to eat a little bit of crow here. Is this
Bunez.
Okay? I've been calling him Burns the entire time. Okay.
Felipe Bunez.
That's my bad. I apologize.
Felipe Bunez. Look, I got punched in the head for a living, but I can pronounce names fairly well.
I knew you were going to let me off there. I've been calling him Felipe Burns this entire time. I thought he was maybe related to Gilbert Burns.
Shiraz the heavy favorite again? What are the odds at right now?
Yeah, not for me, my threshold for huge favorite is anything above 400. If you're in the minus 300s, Shiraz is minus 310 on FanDuel, minus 350 on Caesars. That's you're not a massive favorite until you're kind of into the minus 400, minus 500 territory. So Shiraz is good, man. Shiraz is a tank. He hits you hard. He also has pretty good wrestling. Well-rounded guy. I've made some money betting on Edgar Shiraz here in the past. I like him. I might like him better than some of these, minus 500, minus 800 favorites. So Shiraz, I like him. I don't think that Bunez will give him much of any problem. And I'm a little curious why Shiraz isn't a higher favorite. Kind of these past few guys, I was like, he's good. I'm not sure if he's minus 700 good. I think they may be disrespecting Shiraz a little bit here. I think he maybe should be a bigger favorite than he is.
Interesting. Well, I mean, both guys have some knockouts. 4-0 for Shiraz. Bunez is 3-1. Both guys have some finishes on the ground, respectively. 8 finishes for Shiraz, and Bunez has 9 finishes. Both have had decent, I would qualify as decent competition on their way here. So the fact that you're thinking Shiraz should be a, even heavier favorite is it's interesting. I mean, I lean a little toward Shiraz, but maybe not as much even as the odds. I don't know.
Yeah, I think that Shiraz has him beat just about everywhere here. It would surprise me very much if Felipe Bunya's got the upset here.
All right, I'll lean towards Shiraz with you, and then moving on to Daniel Zellhuber against King Green.
King Green.
Look, Green is like a guy that if he's on, he's wrecking shop, and then if he's not, he's shit in the bed. So you never know what you're going to get with him. The last 10 fights.
Bobby Green, I believe, is the active leader, at least for men in the UFC, with split decisions. I believe he's had 4, 5, maybe 6 split decisions. His last fight against Lance Gibson, the son of, I believe, the other Lance Gibson, who was also in the UFC.
Yeah,
it was a close fight. It was a close fight. And how does Bobby Green win? He wins with speed. He wins with being technical and accurate. And when he gets in that flow state and gets his hands going, he's hard to beat. And so Zellhuber here was just wrecking through the UFC, and then he runs into the ghost of Michael Johnson in his last fight, and he was a similarly big favorite here. I think we're talking, minus 400s, minus 500s, and he had also had some very good line movement. This fight, I believe, was part of the Poirier-Holloway #3 fight, Poirier's retirement fight last summer. Zellhuber was a big part of my card, and he just looked slow, and the ghost of Michael Johnson pieced him up for the first 2 rounds and then just needed to survive the third. So what are we seeing with Zellhuber here? Maybe a little bit slow, especially for someone as young and as powerful as him. So yeah, I'm not looking to bet the house on him against King Green, because King Green is similar to Michael Johnson in a lot of ways. Fast, accurate, get in, get out, get in, get out. And so I don't know what the UFC is doing here. If the UFC is, I don't know, they gave him a carbon copy of the last guy that beat him in a huge upset. So I don't know, does he get upset again, Pat? Or does he learn from his mistakes that he made last July?
If Green is hitting on all cylinders, he wins this fight.
Yeah,
that's all I'm going to say. If he's hitting on all cylinders, and certain athletes like Zellhuber, and you brought this up, and this is a very good point. Certain athletes out there have trouble with certain types of athletes. The guy that's more the methodical, the power guy, things like that. If he can get the power on you and hurt you, fairly early and start grinding on you, things like that, things tend to go their way and make it a little easier for them. If they can't, and Green gets off on him early and starts stinging him and moving well, Zellhuber's really going to have some trouble. So, I mean, potentially an upset, yeah. King could absolutely pull this off, and I'm going to make what's the odds right now? Because I think King could pull this off if he's hitting on all cylinders.
I love the way you're talking, Pat. It looks like I'm going to do a little bit of odds shopping here to get you the best bang for your buck. If you go to Bet Rivers, you can get them at plus 390. That's essentially quintuple your money. You would turn $10 into about $50.
Okay. Well, people have to evaluate whether it's worth the risk to them, right? Go against the grain, all that good stuff. So moving on to Vera versus Martinez.
I did want to hit on one quick point. I know our wonderful producers telling us that we want to keep it under an hour, but I have a quick question. In his fight, the Zellhuber fight, where I bet him heavily against Michael Johnson, Michael Johnson tore him up in the first round, knocked him down in the first round, and just everything was connecting for Michael Johnson, and Zellhuber looked like he was stuck in mud. So he goes back to his corner, Pat, and this was before the Paramount days when we put commercials during these talking to your trainer. He goes to his trainer, and he just looks like he's seeing ghosts. He goes, F, he's fast. Well, what did you think, Zellhuber? You've known about this fight for 4 months. He's also like 40 years old with no chin. Like, he just seems shocked that Michael Johnson was so fast. And Michael Johnson's whole thing, his whole career is being fast. But now he's old and he doesn't have a chin. So I was just, and his
things look totally different when. That's the thing is you can watch 1,000,000 hours of film on a fighter, and when you're in there with him and moving with them, and they're disguising and using feints and fakes and slipping stuff in on you, you know, that's the details that people with not maybe enough experience or potentially the right coaching to simulate those things, you end up getting yourself in trouble. And I've been in fights like with Jose Pele Lande, where you didn't see his kicks coming, you saw him going back, and luckily my arm was up, right? You saw the kick going back, you didn't see it coming in. So that's how fast some people are, and you got to deal with it. So
I love that. I love that. Clip that, Lee. That was awesome. It is different. It's different watching highlights of the guy than stepping in the cage with him. It's just
yeah. The picture in front of you, you know, you got to be able to compute it. So Vera versus Martinez, number 14 versus 34. The odds I know there was a fairly good spread there between these two. One
so
guy's
David Martinez starts at 260, minus 260 on Caesars. He's up to minus 330 now. A little different on FanDuel. He opens at minus 295. He's minus 310. So yeah, I think that the whole thing with Vera is he's definitely on the downside of his career. He still does the thing where he always loses the first round, and it used to be when he was younger, he could lose the first round, download his data, get his reads, and then win the second and third round. He's getting a little bit too old for that. So I think it's really an age issue here. So I'm going to pick Martinez, but Vera may still have a little bit left in the tank, and Martinez is certainly no world beater. I don't think we're going to see David Martinez fighting for a UFC belt anytime soon. So Martinez is the pick, but I still got to give respect to Marlon Vera for all he's accomplished and what he can still do Saturday night.
If there is an upset, it's going to be Vera by submission.
I like it.
Vera's better on the ground. I really feel that, and so we'll see if his takedowns are good enough to get the fight to the ground. If he does get it to the ground, start betting Vera by submission.
Okay, I like it.
I'm just throwing that out there. I'm not the advanced odds and betting guy, but I'm just thinking, looking at the two and their experience on the ground, I know that Vera is better by far, in my humble opinion, on the ground, and so that's where I would lean. So okay, let's go to the main event of the evening here. We've got Brandon Moreno, number 6 in the world, versus number 30 Kavanagh, and this is interesting matchup. They want to market Moreno. I mean, they really do. That's obvious that they want to. And for anybody out there listening, remember, if you pick the winner of the fight and the round and the fashion, KO or submission, TKO or submission, whatever, then you're going to win a free bottle of Cell Saviors and also some Diamine swag. So anybody out there, throw the comment in here on either the Facebook post or the YouTube video, and we'll track that and we'll send you free product. So get those 3 correct. The winner, the round, the fashion it ends, and you win free product. So
Did anybody win last week, Pat? Betting Sean Strickland by TKO in the 3rd round. I mean, that would have been pretty ballsy.
Nobody got it. We didn't even get it. We picked Strickland, but we picked by decision. So there you go. So your breakdown on Moreno versus Kavanagh before we seal this baby up.
This is a weird fight, Pat, on a card full of weird fights that don't necessarily make a whole ton of sense. Kavanagh, not only are they trying to promote Moreno, I think when they made this UFC Mexico City event, they kind of made it with Moreno in mind. I think they had a better matchup, possibly. Now, ever since Conor McGregor took over the UFC, took over combat sports, and took over the world there for a few years, the UFC is looking for the next Conor. So, I mean, it's kind of like, oh, you're from Ireland? can you fight? Here's a UFC contract, because they do want to find the next Conor McGregor, and Ireland will back their fighters. Ireland wants the next Conor McGregor too. So Loney or Kavanagh, he's a decent fighter. He's got a decent UFC record, and I think we're seeing Moreno kind of on the downswing of his career here. I think we're seeing that with a lot of flyweights. We saw Steve Erceg come out of nowhere. He was maybe a minute away from winning the UFC title, and then lost that 5th round and against Pantoja. And then you have Joshua Van coming out of nowhere. Pantoja snapped something in the first 30 seconds. So Van's kind of the champion for now. The flyweight division is in a weird place, as opposed to when it was just Moreno versus Figueiredo. Every single title fight, they fought like 5 times. So I think we may see Moreno get beat here. I think Kavanagh's young enough, well-rounded enough, quick enough to beat Moreno over the course of 5 rounds here. I do think it goes 5 rounds. I'll be betting fight goes to decision. Moreno, kind of like what I was talking about before, he's not as dangerous as he used to be, but he's still tough. He's still a really hard guy to get out of there. And so you can basically double your money. I think it's like -105. Fight goes to decision. I like that a decent amount. And if you gave me $100 and told me I had to bet it, I'd probably lean Kavanagh here. Now, not to get us canceled or anything, but Mexico has been notorious for some very biased, possibly rigged judging. So if this fight does go all 5 rounds, I would be nervous a little bit that they're going to rob my guy Kavanagh. So that's in the back of my head. I like fight goes to decision, and my lean would be Kavanagh.
Sounds to me like you're betting emotionally instead of logically, my friend, because you said my guy Kavanagh. Look, here's what I would say is that Moreno has 11 finishes, never been finished on the ground. Kavanagh, more a striker, obviously. He's only got 1 finish on the ground, never been finished on the ground himself. But at the same time, I'm going to go with Moreno because, look, we have the competition. You're picking Kavanagh by decision, correct?
That'd be my lean, yeah.
Okay. Which, I mean, it makes sense. It really does from your perspective. But I'm literally going with Moreno by submission in round 3. I'm just making that statement now because I think Moreno can pull it off. I think he's much better on the ground. And I think that this fight will end up on the ground. I mean, how tough is it to take down an Irishman? The takedowns are there, bro.
Yeah, you just got to tell them there's whiskey on the ground or something, and they'll go.
You are going to get yourself in trouble. But nonetheless, so you've got Kavanagh by decision. I've got Moreno by submission in round 3. I like because somebody's going to have bragging rights next week. And if it's you, awesome. Look, if it's you, awesome. If it's me, great. So anybody out there that wants to throw in who's going to win that fight, what round, and what fashion that fight ends by KO, submission, or decision, going the distance, you can win Cell Saviors and Diamine clothing. So let us know what your thoughts are. And Josh, in closing, go ahead and give me your closing thoughts on UFC Mexico, and are you going to make money? Because I think you always do.
Well, I usually do. I would have made more money last week if Fluffy could have somehow lasted all 5 rounds. But yeah, I want to give a quick shout out to our live chat here. Heath 7893, who is a new name to me, he said, Pat is the GOAT. I'm sure that Pat appreciates that. And he says, Strickland versus Khamzat at the White House, would they allow that? I mean, I think they would allow that. There's been some visa issues with Khamzat. He may not have done some war crimes, so I don't know if he's technically allowed in the U.S., but they would have to maybe do some red tape. But if they want to get him in, I'm sure they would be able to. I mean, it's literally at the White House. If they want to get Khamzat's visa cleared, they're going to make it happen.
They can do what they want. So, all right, everybody, thanks for joining us again this week. And for my broadcast partner, Joshua Chauvin, I'm Pat Militich signing off for MMA Mobsters. See you all next week.
See you next Friday.